through the legislative branch and then ultimately would be interpreted by the judicial branch. But at the end of the day, we've got what we've got, and what we don't have right now is forward movement in terms of regaining lost ground with things like the Hearing Protection Act. That was a question about the Hearing Protection Act. I love the idea of the Hearing Protection Act, right? In other, there are countries I spend time in where it's almost seen as like rude to not use a suppressor, right? It's not necessarily required in all places, but for instance, I've hunted in England, and when hunting in England, I used a suppressed rifle. And it would be, it was kind of unthinkable in the lands where we were hunting that somebody would hunt with a rifle that wasn't suppressed, right? Because obviously there's impact to people in the area, there's impact to the other animals in the area, there's impact to the animal in the field. If you happen to miss and you're going to take a follow-up shot, you know, all the better if you didn't have a big concussion to indicate where you were in regard to the animal, and obviously make more noise that the animal's going to react to and possibly run away from. So suppressors make, I mean, obviously there's one right here in the background. I mean, you can kind of make it out right there at the top of the screen. There's a Silencer Grow Chimera 308 on my POF rifle there. The idea of the suppressor being something for safety, something for convenience, something for that actually it enhances someone's ability to harvest game cleanly and ethically, because they don't have to worry about hearing protection. They can pay more attention to what's going on around them. You could make an argument that there's a safety issue, right? I certainly have spent a lot of time on ranges and a lot of people who have trouble hearing commands. And if we could all have suppressed firearms on the range, now it probably wouldn't be very practical to have a bunch of suppressed handguns on the range for a concealed carry defense class. But if we were doing a home defense rifle class or even a home defense pistol class, then the suppressor makes sense, and it's a lot easier to have a conversation out on the range and to give directions and to be safer when we're out on the range if we have hearing protection not needed, if we have the suppressors. In fact, I went down to train with amazing instructor, very innovative guy, Todd Hodnett, down in Texas a couple years ago. And I brought some of my own rifles, as did other people, for some extreme long distance precision training. And he basically said, hey guys, you know, we can do it that way if you want, but you know, I've got a whole, you know, fleet of beautiful setup, scope mounted, zeroed, suppressed, semi-automatic 308s. Let's use those, because if we use those, everybody's going to have a better time. You're going to learn all the principles, you're going to learn all the concepts, but we're going to be able to communicate much more freely. You know, it was Texas, windy environment, big wide open spaces shooting out to a mile. And the idea that if we'd had hearing protection on, even if it was electronic, we'd have the wind noise to deal with, even the communication between the shooter and spotter, things like that. So Hearing Protection Act isn't just a ploy to sneak in these sinister verboten items. The Hearing Protection Act makes sense from a safety standpoint in a couple of different ways, and an impact way, because you think about the ranges that have been threatened to be shut down or have been shut down or had their hours of operation curtailed because of the noise impact as they've been encroached upon by new developments. That obviously ceases to be an issue as well. If you start saying, okay, suppressors only until 10 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, there you go. And I think we all know that suppressors would be infinitely more affordable than they are now if we didn't have to worry about the $200 tax stamp, and we didn't have to worry about the limited number of suppressors that could be purchased. I was in South Africa once, and I used a disposable suppressor from Glock, a Glock factory disposable suppressor that was like, I think it was like $25, and you get about 50 shots through it. So even if you didn't have a suppressor and you wanted to shoot early on Sunday morning, you could buy a disposable plastic suppressor and you know, do whatever it was you were going to do that morning and move on. So the idea that suppressors are going to come down in price if we get the Hearing Protection Act passed, that'd be great. Personally, I think Hearing Protection Act is probably just a non-issue right now. As I said, I don't think that our president is pro-gun. I don't think he's pro-gun rights, and I don't think he's going to make any moves in a direction of, you know, removing anything from the NFA or changing the NFA or really doing much of anything that's going to be a positive, that's going to help us, at least not in the short term. So we'll see.